And hopefully we're working. All right, I think we are. I am Drew Badger, the founder of EnglishAnyone.com and the English Fluency Guide. Welcome to another live video here on YouTube. Today, we're going to be answering a question I received recently from a member of Fluent for Life, actually. So I thought this member was also saying, hey, we should probably let other people get the answer to this as well. So I'm putting this here for everyone, not just inside the program, but anybody can have access to this. Nice to see you there, Tom. Looks like YouTube is in fact working here. All right, let me erase the board and we'll get started. Today we're going to be talking about translating. I know a lot of people have trouble with this, but this is a specific issue within translating, so I thought it would be a good idea to make a video about just this point. MJ says hello from Vancouver, and again, Tom, nice to see you there. So this shouldn't be that long of a video. I'll try to keep the lesson portion of this at the beginning, and if people have any questions about other things, they can let me know, but let me keep this short and to the point. So one of the problems that happens to people who are learning English through another language, or even if you already know one language, but you're learning an additional one, your brain can get confused, or you can start thinking about one language or need to translate through your language into the next language. One quick point I'll make about not having to deal with this problem is that even within your same language, you probably know multiple ways of saying different things. So in English, for example, we might have different ways of describing money. So I could say cash, or like greenbacks or bills or other things like that. And all of these things are still English words. Like the brain doesn't really make a distinction between that's an English word and that's a word in a different language. Bucks is another example. And so the first part about this is it's more of a psychology thing when you're thinking, well, this is a word in my native language and this is a word in English. So another example I often give is the word tsunami. Tsunami, which means a larger wave. This comes from Japanese, but a lot of English people, so English-speaking people, just know the word as an English word. So it became an English word. It's, again, a word of Japanese origin, but if young children just hear the word tsunami and they learn about a large wave, they just connect with this word directly in English. So they're not thinking, they don't know, oh, that's actually a Japanese word. Maybe they discover that later if they learn something about Japanese, but this is an English word now, tsunami. So just thinking about those 2 points, let me explain first how you're connecting with things in your native language so you can apply this while you're learning different languages. So if you're learning English or French or German or whatever the language is, but this is how I do it for me learning Japanese as well. So this learner's specific question was talking about 2 different kinds of words. So we'll just put a slash here to separate these. So the first one is simple things that maybe you can understand just by seeing them. So if I have a word like cat or dog, it's easier to understand those and make a connection because it's a physical object or something I can see easily. So a house or a tree, these are those kinds of words. But you might have more difficulty with using something that doesn't just have a specific meaning, like something like this, or you might have something, like the word like as or could, which might have a more abstract meaning or be more difficult to understand. So instead of thinking about the language like this, so learning English or any other language, again, you can group words into these 2 different categories, but you don't have to, and I'm recommending you don't do that, and here's why. The way the brain is basically thinking about these things is it's trying to connect a sound, so not even just like a word, but a sound or a collection of sounds with some kind of situation. So obviously this is easier if I hear a sound, like let's say I'm going to teach you, I don't know, like just some word in an alien language like So if I teach you the word que in an alien language, I can give you a translation for this word, or I can give you a bunch of examples that really help you understand the word que the same way a native alien would learn it. So just as an example, again, we're trying to connect this word with a situation, even if it's a physical thing or a non-physical thing, it doesn't really matter. But we'll give you just a simple example of this first. So que, let's say I give you the first example of this. This is a que right here, que. Now again, I could give you a translation. I could give you a definition of the word que. This is not English. This is just a word I just made up right now for this example. So if I tell you que and I show you this, your brain is starting to make a connection between what is this thing and that word. But your brain doesn't really know for sure with only one example because you don't really know exactly what I'm talking about. This is why we usually get, as native speakers, we're getting multiple examples that really help us understand something very well. So right now I might be thinking, okay, maybe que means t-shirt. Okay, it just means like a shirt or a t-shirt. But if I also get another example, like this, que. Now your brain is thinking, wait a minute, something is different about this. What is the connection between these two things and the word que? So I'm not trying to translate. I'm not telling you what the word means. I'm giving you examples and helping you understand and make that connection yourself. So the more connections you make, when you feel, now I understand, you get that aha moment of understanding, and that's where you feel confident knowing the word in the alien language. So you don't need a translation or a definition of the word. So right now, maybe you think, okay, we've got a t-shirt up here, we got some pants. So Tom says clothing could be a good example. Let's say we get another example here. This is also que. Maybe we get another example over here. This is also que, something like that. So as you get all of these examples, now your brain is kind of looking like it's getting a target over here. We're able to get the bullseye. We get that aha moment of understanding. Okay, like what is the thing that connects all of these? Clothing. All right, so some kind of clothes. So one example probably isn't going to get it for you. Now, I'll make a point very quickly about this, that it seems like it's a faster way to learn to just get a definition or translation. And it is. Like you can just say, okay, if I'm trying to learn a word as quickly as possible, especially for a test, I just want to get a translation and just remember it so I can remember it quickly and pass the test, and that's it. But again, the problem with trying to learn through translations is that you will think through translations when you speak. So even though it seems like a faster way to learn to just get translations of things, you really want to understand things like a native does. So I've just helped you understand this word, this alien language word, the same way a native alien does. All right. So again, what we're doing here is trying to connect a sound or a word with the meaning of that thing by just connecting with the situation itself. Now, when I say situation, I could mean a physical thing like a t-shirt or a house, or I could even mean something non-physical, like an example like this, like as or could. But what happens when we have a more difficult thing or a more abstract thing like this is typically we understand it within a larger group of words, all right? And we don't try to memorize one definition because often words can have multiple definitions or the definition changes slightly in different situations. So if we take a word like as, for example, what we're going to do is like the same kind of thing we're doing over here. Let me erase these examples. But I'll show you how this works the same way. So we begin with the word as, and maybe you don't know exactly what this means, you're not quite certain about it. So the best way to do it is a similar thing like this. We're just getting a bunch of examples. So we will, let's say we have the phrase like, as a doctor. So I work as a doctor. I work as a doctor. Now, maybe you don't quite understand what that means, but you see a picture of a person, wearing like a doctor coat, and you can see that person doing some doctor things. I work as a doctor, or I work as a teacher. I work as a lawyer. I work as this. As you get all of these different examples, the point is not to know every definition of the word as, it's to understand specific uses of it and then to feel confident about those uses without needing to translate. All right? So the point again, like for que, maybe que also means something else in some different context. We don't really care about that. But when native speakers are learning a language, young children, they will probably know maybe one or two definitions of a word like trunk, for example. We could be talking about a box or the nose of an elephant or something else like that. But the basic idea is that it could have maybe even completely different or unrelated meanings. And so each time we learn a new definition of something, then that expands our understanding or deepens our understanding. And now we have multiple ways of understanding this word. But the point is, we're still understanding these things like a native. And when I say like a native, I mean directly in the language rather than needing a translation or an explanation to understand it. All right? So the point is, we want to understand something, and if we have a more abstract or kind of difficult thing to understand, often if you're not able to just learn the word by itself, because as by itself doesn't really mean anything, you have to learn it in larger phrases. So take kind of the shortest example, the shortest unit of meaning, like as a doctor or as a lawyer or something. So as a doesn't really mean anything, but as a doctor, that's really the shortest thing we can think of for this kind of example. So we're looking for examples like this that help us understand this use of a word. There will be other uses of a word, and we try to understand them the same way. But again, even though this might seem like a longer approach, it's much faster in total because it accelerates your learning. You're not thinking about translating when you speak, and you can understand, excuse me, I still have a cough. You can understand new things much faster this way as well. So as you get more examples, like that's another usage of the word, then we will start understanding those different examples as well, and we can integrate all of these things together. Sometimes we will see that a word might have completely different meanings. Other times we might see that a word has related meanings. Like I gave an example recently about the word short. So short, you can talk about short, like physically short, but I could also have a short temper. That means I easily get angry. So this is a more abstract way of thinking about this idea, but it's still using the idea, and as you hear these different examples, you begin to develop a much more native understanding of the word, because you don't need the translations anymore, all right? Or so you don't need the translations anymore. Does this make sense? I'll just give you one more quick example from my own life learning Japanese. I've given this example before. I was talking with my accountant here in Japan. We were having a conversation in Japanese, and I said, "When do you want to meet?" And she said, "Oh, at the like I don't know, Ichigatsu no Atama." So that's like January, like the beginning or the top of January. And so the Japanese word atama is head. And I had not heard this usage before for talking about the beginning of a month. In English, usually we talk about the start of the month or the beginning, but we don't really talk about the head of the month. So I thought this was really interesting. Oh, look at that. So I already knew the word atama in Japanese for head, like a physical head, but here is an abstract use of the same word. But because I'm understanding it in Japanese and not trying to get a translation of what something means, I'm able to integrate that very quickly. Okay, so I can learn new words, understand new things in conversations, and become fluent much faster over time. All right? So just to wrap this very quickly, the basic idea is that if you are good at understanding physical things like marker or cat or dog, something like that, but if you have more trouble understanding more abstract things or something short like a preposition or any even something like as or could or whatever, there are lots of different words like this. It's better to take that and then place it inside a larger context, so nothing too big. You basically want to get something like this, but a bunch of different examples of this will help you really understand what it means. And the more examples you get, this is what I call naturally varied review. We want to get lots of varied examples, not just repeating the same thing, and that will help you understand the thing all in the language you're learning. All right. Let me go back and look at questions, see if anybody has any questions about this or any questions about anything else. As I promised, this should be a pretty quick video, but I think hopefully people get the point. The basic idea is that we're not trying to take a word and learn it like it's like a one-to-one translation. We want to teach the brain how to understand something in a language so that the brain is not translating when we speak. Okay? If you learn through translations, you will speak through translations. How you learn is how you speak. Okay? So this is the kind of thing we do in Fluent for Life. If you'd like to learn more, just like the member who was asking about this, you can click on the link in the description below this video. But the basic idea, whether you're learning with me or by yourself, try to get more examples, understand them in a broader context that helps you understand the situation. And a situation could be a physical thing, or it could be an abstract idea like this. But that's how you will understand things in English, so you use them without translating. Pretty easy, right? All right. Excuse me. Let me go back, check chat. Nice to see everybody here. I'll go through this pretty quickly. As I said, this could be a very short video. Look at that. All right. So Edson, nice to see you there. San says, I've just arrived. Shalom from Brazil. Hello from Canada, says Rola. Lore Maya's official. Hi, teacher. My Melody. Hello. I am watching your videos about more than 1 week, and thank you for teaching English to us. It's my pleasure. So I've been learning languages for many years, but I only finally became fluent when I stopped erasing, or I started, I should say, started erasing the doubts that stopped me from speaking. So what actually got me fluent after failing for 15 years is just realizing the problem is not really knowing the vocabulary, it's having doubt about it. So you might know the word as or something, and you can understand it when other people are speaking, but if you have trouble saying a word, or you still have to translate, or you have other problems with it, it means there's some kind of doubt that's blocking you from speaking. So if you can erase that doubt by understanding the word well, and again, just like I'm giving you this kind of aha moment here of, oh, okay, now I understand what that means. So it's not just understanding something like I kind of know, or I can understand a little. I'm talking about understanding something without a doubt the same way a native would, all right? So this will, again, help you whether you're learning with me or not, but it's a great way to understand the language without needing to translate. So if you don't need to learn with translations, you won't need to speak with them either. All right, Mom says, hi, and Diana from Mexico. Nice to see you there. Lamb, a cute drawing. Yes, I try to do my best. Zip from Melbourne. I remembered to say, you are a very good teacher. Thank you. Adorable. Well, you are too kind. Thank you very much. Marcia says, hello from Brazil. Marciliana. Susan, nice to see you there. Mukesh, I did as I had been asked. or as I was asked. You can say that, but very good. So that's another usage of as. And this is, again, why it's important. We don't take a word like as and try to memorize every definition of it. So I could make a YouTube video like, here is every definition of the word as. And it would probably be popular because people just want to know, hey, give me a list of all of the definitions of as. But it wouldn't help you speak. So there's kind of content for preparing for a test, and there's content for actually developing conversational fluency, and I focus on the fluency part. Let's see, and Akara says, how have you been? I've been all right. I've been a little bit sick, but I'm recovering. Fanatic says, hey, first time watching your lives. This last week I watched probably 10 of your lesson, teacher, the recorded ones. Glad to hear it. Hi, people. How are y'all doing? Says Mike, and I've been watching your live video for a long time, but I still haven't been learning from your old lessons and some of your new lessons. I make my donuts at night. Oh, very interesting. Well, glad to hear you can listen to this while you're working. So yes, thanks to you. And Abdul says, hello, sir. I want to know what lessons going to teach in Fluent for Life. Give me an overview, please. You can send us an email and we'll give you the complete index of what's included, but there are 100 different lesson sets. And the point of the program is just to erase all of the doubts that stop you from speaking. So it could be doubts about vocabulary or pronunciation or what word you should use in a particular situation. And just how to connect your words fluently. So if I can give just a quick explanation about this, whether you join Fluent for Life or not, or you're learning by yourself, you should understand these basic points about learning in general. Again, this is for people, if you want to pass a test, you don't need to listen to this. But if you actually want to speak, this should help you speak much better. So if we can think about the typical way that people learn languages, there are two kind of basic problems with this. The first one is that it's incomplete understanding. So the kind of core problem with learning is people have doubts when they try to speak. So the moment you try to say something, or even before you try to speak, you're worried because you might make a grammar mistake or a pronunciation mistake, or you're worried maybe people can't understand you. There are lots of reasons why people experience doubt. And part of this is because of incomplete understanding. So as I gave in the example just a moment ago, where you know a word through a translation, but you don't really understand it like a native. So you don't really feel very confident about using the word. You still have some kind of doubt about it. Maybe you understand it when other people say it to you, but you still feel unsure about using it. So you have doubt because you have incomplete understanding. And this is typically because traditional language lessons will just give you definitions and translations of words. They don't help you understand it like a native, like I just showed you how to do. So that's incomplete understanding. The second part of this is that we have, I'll make this very simple, but conversations, or just, we won't even say conversations only, but just communication. So communication is unpredictable. Communication is unpredictable. This means when you get into a conversation, even if your teacher tells you to say one thing, maybe natives will say something different, or their pronunciation will be different, or they have an accent, or they mumble, or they speak quickly, or whatever. So the language in the classroom is different than the language of the real world. And this is why a lot of language learners, like English learners, they will complain that my teacher sounds different than how people normally speak. Even right now, the way I'm speaking is different than how I would normally speak with friends. And like the way I'm speaking is not so different, but my vocabulary, my vocabulary might be different. I might use movie quotes or other references if I think the other person would know what I'm talking about. So when I'm communicating with someone, the way I speak also depends on how that other person can understand me or not. So if I'm speaking with a non-native, I will change the way I speak. I will speak a bit more slowly, try not to use tricky vocabulary like slang or phrasal verbs, and I will do my best to be understandable. All right, so for that person. But if I know someone is a native speaker, I know they like certain books or certain movies, I can take movie quotes or other things like that and have a more personal connection with that person depending on the kind of vocabulary I use. So the thing about the way people learn, like these are kind of the two core problems. Like a teacher might help you understand something with a definition, but you don't really feel confident using it, or you only hear your teacher's clear speaking voice and you don't hear a bunch of different examples of natives understanding how the language really works. And then the other problem, which is an even more difficult problem for one teacher to solve, is communication is unpredictable. So how do we prepare for things that are unpredictable? We can't prepare for communication the way we practice the piano or try to play an instrument or practice a punch or a golf swing or something like that. Because it's not like in a piano concert, I'm just practicing a song and I know what the song is going to be when I play it. But in a real conversation, it's unexpected. It's surprising. I don't know what other people will say. So I have to learn in a way that prepares me for real communication. So if I want to speak fluently, I have to have complete understanding. I have to understand things without a doubt. And I also have to be prepared for the unpredictability of real communication. So this is what we do in Fluent for Life. We give you complete understanding. We give you lots of examples that really help you understand things like a native. And we give you lots of examples of how natives actually connect things and how natives say the right things at the right time because they know those situations. So rather than getting a list of things or getting translations, you really need to learn in the right way that gives you that preparation for real communication. Again, if you just want to practice for a test, you don't need to worry about this. The point is just to memorize a translation or a specific answer for a test. So the teacher says, remember this word, and then you say that word or you write that word on a test. But in real communication, you can't do that. You can't practice or prepare in the same way. So that's what we do. Now, this is the core idea of the program and why we designed it this way, but you can learn with 100 different lesson sets that cover lots of different topics that expose you to different native English speakers. So you might hear like English speakers from America or Britain or the United States, or United States, Canada, New Zealand, even other countries where native English speakers are living. But you're hearing all of these different examples, and together, that's what prepares you for communication. So if you know a lot of English, but you don't really feel confident speaking, you probably still have doubts about one or two of these things. Okay? So the point is like how you learn in the classroom needs to prepare you, it needs to mirror you, and not just the classroom, but how you learn needs to prepare you for real communication. So if it does not prepare you for that, or you know a lot of English but you don't feel confident speaking, that's the reason. Either you've got incomplete understanding, and incomplete meaning like you know something but you just don't know it well enough to use it. You still feel uncertain about, I kind of know this word, but I'm not quite sure if I should use it, or if it's a grammar point, I don't know if I should use this grammar tense in a certain way or whatever. That's in this kind of category of that. And then the second thing is actually, even if you know the vocabulary really well, not knowing how to connect it confidently and fluently. So you need to see examples of all of these things to really know how to do that. But the good news is you don't have to do this with another person. You don't need a personal teacher there, and you don't need a speaking practice partner. You just need to get lots of good examples that help you systematically prepare for real communication. So if you'd like to learn more about this, this is what we do in Fluent for Life. The specific topics are less important than the actual way you get fluent, because you can do this by yourself. It's actually possible to find like good lessons and get good examples. It's difficult. I mean, this is how I got fluent in Japanese. It took me a long time because I didn't have anyone to explain this to me. And I wish I had a teacher who could teach me like this, but again, you don't really need just one teacher. Like, I shouldn't be the only person teaching you. Even if you're, I don't know, like you love me as a teacher, you still need examples of lots of natives in order to be prepared for real communication. So just make sure you get those, but get them systematically so you feel confident and prepared no matter when you speak. So today, when I'm speaking with people in Japanese, like I went and got a haircut yesterday, is a new barber, never met him before, but I had a nice like hour-long conversation about family and business and all kinds of stuff. So I wasn't prepared for anything, like I hadn't, practiced or repeated some lines, but I was prepared to understand what he was saying, and we had a great chat, and it was a really fun, just fun day, it was a fun afternoon or a fun hour, but that's because I was prepared. I'm really prepared for any situation. It doesn't matter where I go or who I meet. I know I will be able to communicate confidently because I know many ways of expressing things, and I can understand things, and I can keep conversations flowing. So if you'd like to do that, this is what we prepare you to do in Fluent for Life. All right, let me see if we have any final questions, but it looks like maybe that's it. We'll see. But Abdul, hopefully that makes sense about what we teach. That's kind of the overview of the program. Olga says, hi teacher, Drew's fans, why not so many likes? I don't know. It's kind of, it takes a lot of effort to push a button, Or maybe people don't know, people don't like the lesson, we'll see. Naufel says, as I told you before. Yes, that's another good example of as. But remember, the point is not to just use random examples of vocabulary, it's to really understand them very well so you use them without thinking or translating. All right, Mike says, I'm glad I didn't miss this lesson. Yes, well, again, I make all of these available, so even if you miss it live, you can watch it later. Mike, again, I actually drawn down how my English have come along lately, reading grammar and other interesting books and stuff. That's true. The conversation can become more informal. Yeah, so you can have conversations that are more informal or even more formal ones. And if you're not prepared for all of these different kinds of English, whatever the language is you're learning, then of course you're going to have more trouble speaking because you will be surprised and unprepared for that in real communication. Mohammed says, I speak English clearly, but whenever I try to speak faster, or throw an idea, my mind freezes. Also trying to level up my English, but I feel like facing a wall. I want to level up more and more. Yeah, Mohammed, I would focus on leveling up individual vocabulary by understanding it better. So instead of trying to learn more words, really understand a few words very well, and then that will actually help you learn many more words faster. So just like we talked about, like I gave you that example of, what was that word, the alien word? And so as I gave you different examples of that, like a shirt and pants and clothes and a hat, that kind of thing, you come to understand what it means, not because you got a definition, but because you understood that. And like the word example I gave also about short. So you could have a short lifespan, like you could have a short life. So that's a kind of abstract use of the same word short. Instead of just having something being physically short, it could be mentally or figuratively short as well. So the same kind of thing, if you feel like you're hitting a wall, think about what that specific wall is. Like if you can understand some things, but you're not feeling completely confident about them, then you should really think about that and focus on specific things that you have trouble understanding. When you can use something without a doubt, you will know it, and then you can move on to the next thing. Bayou says, hi, Drew. What was your method when you started learning Japanese? When I started learning Japanese, I was learning the same way I tried to learn French and Spanish and Latin, when that was getting translations and definitions of stuff and learning Japanese through English. So when I stopped doing that, I started learning Japanese in Japanese. That's when I became fluent. So again, like there's learning a language, and that could prepare you to pass a test, but you can still have trouble speaking that way. Often because if you're learning through translations, then you have to think through translations as well. When you take a test, especially a written test, you have time to think and organize sentences and translate things and guess in your head. But when you're speaking, you need to be quick. You don't want to have time like, oh no, let me think about what that means and translate it in my head and organize some sentences first. You want to be fast. You want to be able to respond quickly. So you have to be able to learn the language in the language if you want to speak. I've not met anyone that speaks really well who is like learning the language all through translations. Now, it might be possible to do that, and if you can think really quickly, like you can translate stuff really quickly, maybe that's possible to do, but I've never met that person before. That didn't happen for me, so maybe it's possible, but when I made that switch from learning English or learning Japanese through English to learning Japanese through Japanese, that's when I started getting fluent. All right. So you can learn a language in many ways, but if you want to get fluent, you really need to understand the language in the language, because again, the goal is communication. It's not just knowing words, it's being able to use them fluently, if that's your goal. So for me, I want to be able to speak fluently. That's the goal. Let's see. And Mike says, sorry, I almost forgot about that, to push the like button. Yes, it's always appreciated when people click the like button. So thank you very much, or share the video, or take it and post it in other places if you like, so that other people can benefit and YouTube knows that, hey, this is an interesting lesson for people, and then it will show it to more people. Olga says, is it okay if I say at the end of the lesson with my students, that's my cue? If you're talking about like that's my cue to leave, like I want not like that's my cue to finish something, as long as people understand the context for that, then you could use it. But if I'm just finishing a lesson and I say, now that's my cue, maybe people don't understand why I'm saying that. But if like let's say I say a really funny joke, and then, people are laughing and clapping, and I say, okay, that's my cue to leave. Like, I want to leave on a high note, like on a good point, not just like, okay, like people don't like what I'm doing, that's my cue to leave. So that's another reason or another instance or time where you could use that same that's my cue. But just make sure people understand what that's talking about. So there should be some obvious thing that's cueing you to take some kind of action. Let's see, who did we miss over here? Nona says, hi, I just gave in my presentation and I did a great job thanks to you. Thank you so much. Glad to hear it. So you could say, I gave a presentation. So you would give a presentation, not give in, but I'm glad to hear it, to give a presentation. Cam, nice to see you there from Thailand. Long time no see. How have you been? I've been doing all right. Let's see. Fabio says, what program do you recommend? What program you recommend books? Well, I mean, it's easy to learn. You can learn language with books, but if you want to communicate, you need to see examples of people communicating. It's really that simple. So whether you learn, again, with me or not, we really want to make sure that you understand things the same way natives do. And so that's why you need to get lots of examples, whether you get them on YouTube or movies or whatever. Just make sure you understand it, because a lot of people get random examples of, they might read a novel or watch a video or whatever. They're getting random examples of things, but they still don't feel very confident about using them. So the point is not just to get more random input, but to do it systematically so you eliminate doubt. The ending of doubt is the whole point, because if you have doubt, you won't speak. All right, so that's the goal. It's not just getting input. The input is kind of what helps you improve, but it's the elimination of doubt. Getting rid of that systematically, that's what allows you to speak. And Candy says, it's hard not to translate, especially that I need to say sometimes it makes sense in my native language, but not English, doesn't sound right. Yeah, and again, often when we see situations like, how do I express myself when I'm feeling sad or when I'm doing this or something else? Often we will learn an even simpler way to do things in the language we're saying. The problem is we're trying to take something and then we have to translate that and then try to say that in a different language. And that becomes a much more confusing and uncomfortable process, and it takes a long time. But if you see lots of examples of people expressing certain things or demonstrating certain situations, like, okay, this person, just like the example I gave before about like ichigatsu no atama, like January, the head or the top or the beginning of January. So that example I got from my accountant, I understood, oh, like within that context, now I know what this word means. I don't need to think and translate. And so instead of me thinking like, how would I say that in English? It's like at the beginning of January. Like that's actually a longer way to express it. So the Japanese is like, it's much shorter and easier because people find easier, faster ways to do that. It's the thinking and translating part that makes it worse because you're not spending time seeing natives do these things. So you need to see natives doing these things or expressing these things, like even something simple, a rock falls on my head. What do I say in English? In English, I say ouch or damn or, something. There are different ways I could express this. In Japanese, it's ita. Ita. So when I hear something like that, or a child, like even like an old person in Japan stands up and stretches and they're like, yush, yush, ah. And like that's the kind of grunt sound that they make. So we don't do that in English, but when people say that, and young children in Japan see adults doing that, they start doing the same thing. They think, okay, like, yush, like little kids just copy what their parents or adults do, and they're not learning it through translations. They're just seeing, in this situation, this is what people say. So there's no need for an additional language there. So it's probably difficult for people to translate because you've been learning through translations for so long. But the good news is it's easy to stop doing that if you make this switch to learning English in English rather than trying to learn it through another language. So at first it's like, oh no, what am I going to do without my translations? But you only need a few examples to feel, okay, this really is the way I should be learning, because you get these aha moments as you understand things in the language, and that's what helps you speak. All right? So just remember that. I know even if it might feel more difficult for you at first, it's a faster way to learn, and it's a faster way and much easier way to speak. Let's see, Mo says, I dreamed in English. Does that mean I'm fluent now? Well, it's a good sign. It's a good sign. Remember, like, understanding things or using things while you're dreaming, you don't have much control over that unless you're having a lucid dream, which is the thing where you can kind of control the dream or control what you're doing. But yeah, it's a good sign that you're learning more. Raki says, fluency in Japanese seems more than knowing the language. They have other factors into the account that Western people may not know when they talk. Well, again, like, there's nothing different about different languages, just like thinking about speaking. So let's ignore the different written languages. I'm just talking about children, like a child born in the United States versus a child born in Japan. So they will both learn different ways of expressing things for particular ways or particular situations. And in Japan, like part of the culture or part of the language is shortening things and speaking, knowing that the other person understands what you're talking about without using without saying the whole sentence. So I could just say like, samui. And that means like the weather is cold or I'm cold or whatever. But I don't need to say I am cold. People understand that from the situation. So with the English version of that, you would actually like grammatically say I am cold. Like if I just said cold in English, people would be thinking like, what do you mean? Like, are you cold, or what specifically is cold? But in Japan, like it's like the culture is different, but you learn that same thing as you learn the language by studying the people. You don't really learn the language just from a textbook. The textbook can give you examples of things, but it's seeing what other people do in this situation, so I should do that thing or similar things in that situation as well. So you might have a situation like someone says they're cold or they're tired or whatever, that you can take something simple or more advanced. There will be different ways of expressing things, like how do you apologize? How do you say I'm sorry for doing something? There are different ways to express that. And so if you see a bunch of different native examples of people apologizing for something, then you will know how to do that too. So you will feel confident, like this is the intonation, these are the words, these are the specific ways of speaking or whatever. You learn all of that as one unit just by seeing natives doing that same thing, all right? Now, I don't like reminding people that this is how you learned your native language, because then people think, well, I'm not a native English speaker, so I can't learn like that, but that's basically what I'm telling you to do. All right, so that'll be our secret over here. But the point is to understand in the same way that you learned your native language. And it just means you're connecting directly with the language without trying to need translations or anything. Bayou says, yeah, learning Japanese through translations is a total mess for me when I came across words. Yeah, so my brain just short-circuited. Yeah, so again, like if you're learning specific like vocabulary, and again, like even like learning kanji like this, like you can learn something, like you can learn like the story for a particular word that helps you understand that word better. So like if we have so kanji like this, it's like exquisite. Like we can think of a story like, so this is the element for woman, this is the element for few, and we can make up a little story that's like few women are like, something we could, come up with something like that. Or we could come up with like another example, if we have, let's see, what's another good one? So this is the character for jealous. It's like a woman with a rock. So you can think of like, a woman like throwing a rock at another woman, something like that. So anyway, like instead of trying to translate one thing through something else, it's more about kind of understanding, and it becomes easier with a word or an example like Japanese, because often we get some kind of story. Not always, but often we do. So when we're thinking about learning a particular character, it's better, again, to understand it within the language itself rather than trying to get a translation of it, all right? So it works the same way, but again, the point is to pay attention to like what the actual people are doing for particular situations, and that's how you understand it. Moy says, how do I master sounds, for example, lip movement and stuff, so that it should look and sound natural? Is there any course on that? Well, I mean, just watch natives. Just watch what we're doing in Fluent for Life. So if you're looking for specific ways of making sounds, the general thing I recommend people doing is what I call sound transitioning, so to change from one sound to the next. So let's say I move my mouth in a particular way, like ah, to make an ah sound, but I can change my mouth while continuing to produce a sound, and that will help me find like the correct mouth movement for something. So if I want to say ah, and then I want to say ooh, like how would I do that? I can say ah, look at that. So I close my mouth a bit more, and as I continue producing sound, like I can think about how might I do that and just try moving my mouth in different ways. So I'm transitioning from one sound to the next, not trying to just like make one sound and then copy another sound, which is a bit more difficult. But if I can move my mouth in different ways to try to match that and try to find that sound, that's how you can do that. So that's a simple way just to connect and see if you can make different sounds. Like I can, like click, make different kind of sounds, or anything like that. It's the same way you're kind of with music, how you're going from one note to the next. So just continue to make a sound and try moving your mouth in different ways. That will help you understand how to make those sounds. So Frederick can help you with that, and also the examples in Fluent for Life. Just watch how people speak. You can slow the videos down if you care about that, but remember that each person is going to sound a little bit different. So you don't need to try to match one person's accent or sound, like the way they pronounce something exactly. Each person is going to sound a little bit different. So it's much better to get a bunch of different examples and find what's comfortable for your voice, because your voice, you have a physical, skull and mouth, and it's a little bit different than everyone else's. So it's going to sound a little bit different too. But it can still sound native if you listen to a lot of examples. All right? So hopefully that helps there. Let's see, and then a Susie with a little rose there, lovely. Olga says, some teachers believe that shadowing helps to achieve fluency. What do you think? Well, I mean, shadowing is just like one thing you can do where you're basically copying what other people are saying. And for me, like, the shadowing is good if you're trying to mimic what someone else is saying. Like, okay, like this person said cat, so I should try to say cat in the same way. But for me, my focus is more on conversational fluency and being able to speak. And so rather than just repeating particular people, I'd rather see a bunch of different examples of how people might speak. So you can think of shadowing as like, I don't know, it's like a later step in refining how you speak. So if I'm trying to sound like a particular person, but the first thing I should be trying to do is going for fluency, where I really understand something without a doubt. So often repeating things, like repeating after people, isn't really going to help you understand things better. It's multiple varied examples that help you understand things. And then when you understand things, you can try to refine your pronunciation or your listening or whatever. So yes, like shadowing isn't a bad thing. I don't think it's even a waste of time. It's just, I think, less important than focusing on fluency in general. So I wouldn't say that like shadowing gives you fluency. I mean, it's kind of related to that. But again, repeating people is not what helps you understand things. Like I could take a word, like again, if I'm teaching you the word que in an alien language, and I just keep repeating que, you're not going to understand the word any better when I repeat it 100 times. So repetition, even if you learn to make the correct mouth movement or something, it's not giving you fluency, because fluency comes from understanding things without a doubt. So that's why I focus on that. So again, like I don't have anything bad to say about shadowing. It's just like, if it's not removing doubt, I don't really focus on that. So it's good if you want to sound like a particular person, then try to listen to them and mimic the way they sound. But if you're going for fluency, you really should be getting a variety of examples and hearing how different people speak. So remember, again, here's that secret again. You're learning English the same way you learned your native language. You need multiple examples. So in your native language, if you only heard your mother while you were a child, you will sound like your mother. But if you hear your mother and father and brothers and sisters and other family and teachers and all of these other things on TV, that's what gives you a unique voice. You don't sound exactly like anybody else. So that's in your native language. So you just have to do that again, but systematically in English. And it's much faster to do it if you learn, like we do in Fluent for Life. The point is to do it systematically, not just to get a bunch of random input. All right. So shadowing is not in itself like a bad thing. It's just, again, you should be thinking, is this removing doubt? Raga says, studying people when people talk is the best described explanation. I, as a Japanese, have to think concretely for a specific word when I speak in English. Yeah, so you, again, the kind of studying people, when you see examples of what other people do in a language, like you probably say, when you just do that naturally, the same way an English speaker would say yay or yes or whatever when they do something well. All right, and it's just because you've seen other people do that in that situation, and that's what you're really copying. All right, look at that. Lots of good questions and points, though. Fabio says, what programs do you recommend, books and movies? You should watch my videos about books I recommend and videos I recommend. Just search the channel for that. But again, the point is not, you could get fluency and understanding from lots of different things. The point is not you need to have this one example, but the best thing you can use is anything that removes doubt. And often it's a bunch of examples together that help you remove doubt. So that's why we design Fluent for Life the way it is, and that's why I teach the way I do. That's why I learn the way I do. I don't want to just get one example. So I watch, for example, interviewing Japan, I think is the name of the channel. There's just another channel on YouTube that is a guy from Britain who interviews Japanese people, and it's giving you naturally varied review. He probably doesn't know that term, but he's a language learner also, and his Japanese is really good, and he's learned probably in the way I'm describing. I've never spoken with this guy, but this is an example of the kind of way you should be learning, where you hear here's a question and a bunch of different people answer it. Very simple. So it's another example of naturally varied review, where you're not just getting one example of something, you're hearing how many different people would pronounce something or say something or express something. So some things will be similar and some things will be a little bit different. But the whole thing, it creates a web of understanding. That's what eliminates the doubt. All right. So the more examples you can get, the better. It's not from a particular book. It's just getting the right things systematically. All right, hello from Vietnam. Look at all those flags over there. All right, thanks so much. Impeccable explanation as always. Stay blessed. Thank you, Moise. And Olga says, thank you as well. All right, if every native speaker spoke like you, I surely would be fluent. Ha. Well, you would easily understand people, but it wouldn't necessarily make you fluent. But yes, a lot of people, I get that comment pretty much every video. I wish everyone spoke like you, Drew. All right, and Chaser says, hi, Teacher Drew. Been watching your videos for a couple of years. Love your technique towards fluency, acquiring the English language. Glad to hear it. If you are enjoying the videos, do click the like button and share the video. Victoria says, it's not a bad thing, but most of the time I get bored while watching videos. Any tips for that? It depends on what videos are you not bored watching. There must be some things you enjoy. Maybe you like watching movies or whatever that thing is. But the boredom overcoming that usually comes from getting aha moments. So if you can understand things and you feel more confident, that's what keeps you motivated. So like we designed our app Frederick to give you lots of aha moments to make sure the app itself isn't boring. Like you're testing different things and seeing what sounds or what letter combinations make particular sounds. And again, you can do that same kind of thing with books or videos or whatever it is you're interested in. So there's probably something, you probably have movies that you enjoy watching or TV shows or whatever. Find something you enjoy watching, or pick a topic, like even just watching on YouTube, you can watch different videos of any kind of topic you're interested in. So pick a topic, watch 10 different videos about that topic, and I guarantee you will feel more fluent. All right. Let's see here. I'm trying to get through these, but people keep asking more questions. All right, let's see. Edison says, how is the best way to get expressions like good shapes? How is the best way to get expressions like good shapes? You mean like to be in good shape, like physically, like muscular or whatever, to be in good shape, like to be healthy? Again, you get real vocabulary from real situations. So if you see natives talking about like exercising, if that's what you're talking about, then you will learn those vocabulary words. So if you watch a bunch of people in English, like native English speakers talking about, I don't know, fitness videos or whatever, if you watch both of those or many of those, you will learn that vocabulary naturally. So we gave, like there's a health and fitness video lesson set in Fluent for Life. And in that, I actually teach a lot of these phrases, but the point is to kind of show you how they work so you understand them. But again, seeing them used by natives in real situations, that's where you learn how the vocabulary works. You learn what vocabulary to say, and you learn how to connect your words fluently. All right, here in Philippines, says Chaser, and Lala says, when you heard people say come up with or come across, which sounds similar, how to learn these words? It's again seeing particular situations and trying to understand different uses of them through seeing those situations. So if you can think about it, like again, a non-native speaker. Let me leave this here. Hopefully this idea makes sense. But this is another good example of a non-native speaker trying to learn vocabulary through translations or trying to study words. So I'm going to show you two different ways of learning this. So here we have like, what was the example? It was like come up with and come across. Okay, so here's come up with and then come across. So a non-native speaker who is learning English through vocabulary, like they're trying to, maybe they get definitions or they're just looking at things, it's like, oh no, like they look similar because they both have the word come and they're both phrasal verbs, and like, oh no, what do we do with this? Now a native speaker, they will get examples of these things in situations. So they will hear like let's say I'm like walking down the street and I see something like physically on the ground, like some money. And look at that, I like pick up the money and like, what? I came up with $5. I came up with $5. So I like physically, I'm walking, I see something, oh, look at that. I came up with a marker. So it's like, you can imagine me bending over and I came up with a marker. So that's a physical understanding of how this word works, okay? So when natives are seeing that, they're not just looking at like the vocabulary and getting confused about that. They're actually coming like really understanding the vocabulary very well because they know it so well, all right? So it's how they learn it. So I'm not trying to begin with the vocabulary, I'm beginning with the situation. So we have come up with, where I'm like, you can physically see me like, oh, I like bend over. You can't see me on the screen. Then I came up with a marker. All right, that's a physical use of it. Now, in the same way, I might, I'm thinking about something and I came up with an idea. So that's a more non-physical usage of the same thing. All right, so I came up with something. That's where we get that idea of like, I kind of reached down, like I'm almost like this, like I'm reaching down into my head and I came up with an idea. So I can say like I came up with that. It's a similar idea, but even though the words like when we talk about turning on a radio. So we still use the phrasal verb to turn on, even though we might be pushing a button. So the vocabulary might be there, but it's the idea behind that. That's what we're still thinking of. And in that same way, that's how you might come up with a particular idea. Now, come across something the same way was like, I'm walking and like, what? There's a marker in front of me. I'm walking and I came across that thing. It's like in my path. I can see it here. Look at that. I came across a marker. Okay, so you can imagine me walking like, oh, like I came across a dog. I came across something else. And from that physical understanding, now we understand, oh, like I came across like an interesting idea while reading a book. So that's a more non-physical or figurative way of understanding something, okay? So the point is we don't begin with translations. We don't even really begin with the vocabulary. We begin with the situation. So you can see here, like, come across and come up with it's two completely different things, okay? All right, it's two completely different things. So I came up with something, like I came up with an idea. Like now, I just came up with a way to demonstrate the difference between these ways of learning, all right? So if you feel confused about these things, it's because you have doubt about them. It's not just like, you know, trying to take the words and we're going to learn like 50 different phrasal verbs with one verb or one, you know, preposition or whatever. We really want to understand and have no doubt about that thing. All right. Do you have no doubt about these now? Like, look at that. I came across something. So Fabio, you would say, I came across a snake, or I came across some snakes, or something like that. Be careful with your, yes, you came across, but it would be a snake or snakes, something like that. Does everybody get the idea here? So the point is not like, and this is exactly what I just showed earlier in this video, where it's not about beginning with a vocabulary word or a translation or a definition. We want to begin with the situation, and then we can understand it like a native. So this is why we say like, oh, like, why did he say I came up with that? Like, what does that mean? Like, imagine I, you know, dig down into the dirt and I like come up with, you know, I came up with like a piece of gold or something like that. So that's me physically demonstrating that. But in the same way, I can come up with an idea or come up with a new invention or a way of doing something. So it's like I'm reaching into my head and what, like I came up with something like that. All right, so it's a similar idea, and we think about the situation, and often natives don't even know why. Like little kids today don't know anything about like turning on a light. They don't turn anything, they push a button or flip a switch to do that, but we still use the expression to turn on a light. So lots of people are still using that just for the meaning of it, but that's the history behind that. So often when I'm teaching these, it's important to help learners because adults are always trying to be logical, and we want to think like, why does it mean that? It's hard for people to simply accept the language, so it's easier for me to try to give you examples of how you understand things physically first, and then get more figurative, different ideas of that. So we explain, like you can see this whole thing in Fluent for Life or the Visual Guide to Phrasal Verbs, but these are specific programs that help you learn this in the same way. Hopefully that makes sense. So if you have vocabulary that's similar, especially if it looks similar, but they really mean completely different things, spend more time with that or get better definitions, find someone like us who can help you or however you do that. But that's how you understand the vocabulary better. All right, example, this schedule is in good shape. A lot native say. Yeah, so you would say in good shape. So you don't say shapes, it's just in good shape. So it just means like something is like if I talk about like someone being physically fit, like I could describe a person like this who's like, really, really fat, I guess. So this person is like not in good shape. For if we're going to talk about like being like fit and healthy, but if we can, get this person like thinner again, get them some muscles, oh, now maybe that's too thin, but you get the idea. So we're trying to change their shape and get them into a good shape. So we can talk about a person physically being in good shape, or we can talk about anything like a lesson could be in good shape, a car is in good shape, a computer is in good shape, like if it's still working and functioning properly. Okay, so you see how as you get more examples, you come to understand things a lot more easily. All right. All right, let's see. I'll try to get through these last couple of questions here. All right, where did I go? What did I miss? Oh, okay, here's what some memo says. Thank you for all the classes. I have a question. If I can listen to you and understand almost all, which English level would you say I have? Like, yeah, the question about being able to understand and what your level is doesn't really mean anything, because the only thing that really counts is your ability to communicate. And again, it's not like it's a bad thing if you can understand, but for you, if you are trying to communicate, it doesn't matter if you can only understand what I'm saying. How well can you speak? Do you feel confident? Do you have doubts when you speak? If you do, then that's like the real level you're at. So you can have different levels. You can have strong understanding, but very weak ability to communicate. All right, so you need to focus more on getting examples to understand that better. Let's see, and Priyanthi says, good morning, how are you? I hope you are okay. I usually very especially you because you are a great teacher in the world. Your teaching method is excellent. I always look up to you. Well, glad to hear it. It's my pleasure. Bridget, nice to see you there. And Fabio says, fit, incredibly clear way to explain it. Says, Justo, glad to hear it. This is purely comprehensible we'd say comprehensible input. Comprehensive, that's a different word where we're talking about like a wide range of something. Like a comprehensive book talks about many different things, but comprehensible means you are able to understand it. So yes, I am giving comprehensible input, but notice my goal here is not just to give you a lot of input, it's to erase your doubt. All right. If you don't have doubt about something, you will feel confident using it. So the goal is not like a lot of people talk about comprehensible input, but very few people are talking about why we get the comprehensible input. The point is to eliminate the doubt that stops you from speaking. So when you really understand something well, then you can use it. All right. That's the goal. So yes, I could give you a bunch of input, but if it doesn't make you feel more confident about speaking, then I'm not really helping you very much. All right, Rack again says, getting to the verb come, I get to wonder what comes next and then start to seek for its context. Does that show I have some knowledge on come? Sure, like again, as you get more examples of something, you will feel more confident using it. So your brain will naturally look for more examples and try to make more connections. Dagam says, who want to practice English with me? So again, you can look for people to practice your English, but hopefully this video has shown you that the point is really to eliminate doubt, and you can do that by yourself. So you can, even before you say a word, you can eliminate any doubts you have so that you feel confident when you speak. This is what we do in Fluent for Life, and whether you learn with me or not, this is the way I recommend people learn, because it eliminates the doubt, and that's what allows you to speak. All right, Joseph says, came up with kind of picking up plus coming across. I'm figuring it out right now. Yeah, like you could come across something, like coming across something would mean like it was already there. Like I came across a good idea in a book. But if I came up with it, it's coming from me. So you can see how there's a distinction or a difference there. Let's see, and Abdul says, how many vocabularies I would learn from Fluent for Life by visual guides if I take Fluent for Life? There are... I don't know. I would say I haven't counted them all, but like over 13,000, I'm guessing, just from the number of words in various lesson sets. But part of this is going to be vocabulary you already know, but maybe don't feel so confident about using it. And then part of it will be new vocabulary where we really help you understand a lot of new things, the way natives learn and use them. But that's how we get you fluent. So it's like part of the reason people join the program is because they know a lot of English already, but they don't have complete confidence about that vocabulary. There's still things they're having doubts about. So if we can erase those doubts, we will unlock your ability to speak with the vocabulary you already know. So it's a much faster way to improve. But of course, we also teach you lots of new expressions and help you understand new ways of learning even the vocabulary you already know. So like the word short, as I explained before, you know, like a short, like I could have a short marker and a long marker, but I could also have a short attention span, or I could have a, I don't know, like a short life, or I could have a, you know, a short temper where I'm easily getting angry at people. All right. So the point again, is to really help you understand the vocabulary like a native, so you speak without thinking or translating or hesitating. It really is a wonderful feeling when you can express yourself just like you can in your native language, and you're just doing that by basically doing what a native would do. But I'm helping you learn it really actually better than a native because it's systematic. So natives, even young children, when they're learning their native language, they get lots of examples, but they're not really, maybe they don't understand things, or parents aren't making sure that the children understand the example very well. There are lots of reasons why children actually learn much slower than they should be. So if people want to get fluent, this is what we do in Fluent for Life, and this is why we're able to get people fluent so quickly. All right, look at that. We've got to the end of time. Yes, you could also have a short. We would say a lack, L-A-C-K, a lack of time. All right, well, I'm still recovering from my sickness, and if I continue to speak more, boy, my throat is going to run. I don't know. It's going to. I think it's going to end on me. So hopefully, again, you have enjoyed this. If you have, please do click the like button. It does help the channel, especially because we don't have advertising on the channel. You probably noticed this when you watch videos and you don't see a bunch of ads on the videos. It's because I want you to get fluent as fast as possible. Well, have a fantastic day. If you're not a member of Fluent for Life and you would like to get fluent faster, you can click on the link in the description below this video to learn more about that. If you have any questions about the program, just send us a mail at info@englishanyone.com, but we would love to get you fluent. We know how to do it. We're very good at it. We've been doing it for over 20 years, and we can help you too. Have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks again, Bridget. Bye-bye.